What's the most disturbing secret you know about someone that would ruin their life if exposed, but you stay silent, pretending you don't know? My coworker's entire degree is fake. He photoshopped the diploma and no one ever checked. My older brother did this. They eventually found out and didn't care. The CEO laughed it off. My stepbrother and his wife surrendered their only child at a fire station because the baby had a disability. They told everyone it was a stillbirth, but in reality, they didn't want to raise a child with special needs. As far as my dad and his wife know, they have no grandchildren from their marriage. But somewhere out there, I have a step-sibling with Down syndrome in the system. Edit. For those asking, this happened in the US under what's called safe haven laws. They vary by state, but generally, a parent can safely surrender an infant at a hospital, fire station, or police station within a certain period, usually 30 days. Similar laws exist in other countries as well. I'm gay, and my homophobic father plans to leave most of his property and money to my nephew, because in his words, at least he'll carry on the family name. What he doesn't know is that my nephew is also gay. My best friend fell in love and actively tried to seduce her biological father. Once she tried to kiss him when he was drunk. Despite being a jobless drug addict, he was the one that had to go no contact after she wouldn't let it go. For context, she was adopted as a baby and met her parents for the first time at 18. Apparently, it's not uncommon for family members who weren't raised together. Her adopted father also had the emotional capacity of a stump, and she was still reeling from being raped in high school. She graduated and currently has a successful career with kids and a wonderful husband who I'm pretty sure has no idea. I stumbled across my neighbor's Reddit account, and now I know way too much about his marriage. They present themselves as the perfect couple, but from what I've read, they're definitely not. If his wife knew the things he was posting, I think it would be the last straw. A friend of my mother works as a nurse. She once admitted that when patients are at the end of their life and in unbearable pain, she gives them more pain medication if they ask, even if it might be enough to end their life. She never deliberately euthanized anyone, but she strongly believes that no one should have to spend their final days in severe pain. My wife is a registered nurse and midwife, and she says this is actually pretty common. Giving high doses of morphine to someone who's already at the very end is often a quick and painless way to go. They just stop breathing. The problem is that in Australia, euthanasia isn't legal everywhere, and even where it is, the process is so tightly regulated that it's almost impossible. My auntie had terminal cancer for years, and they weren't able to help her until she was literally just hours away from passing. At least her death was peaceful in the end. It's more sad than disturbing. My uncle was almost my aunt. He was born in the late 40s with no visible testicles, no vagina, and only an enlarged nub that doctors even considered removing, but thankfully didn't. The doctor told my grandmother, "Congratulations, it's a girl." With 3 older boys under 5, she was delighted. For the first 3 or 4 years, my uncle was treated and dressed like a little girl, ribbons in his hair and all. But he'd toss them away outside so he could climb trees, wrestle, and roughhouse with his brothers. Around age 4, his testicles finally descended, though his penis remained underdeveloped. Later in life he married, but he was never able to have children. It's not something anyone in the family really talks about. My great-grandmother once shot a government official because he tried to take away my grandpa and his siblings. He falsely claimed that their parents had signed documents handing them over and that all of the children, 19 of them still alive at the time, will be sent to residential schools. She wasn't having it. She pulled out her gun and shot him in the face. Since she lived on the reservation, she was never charged with murder. And yes, that number is right, 19 siblings. My grandpa was the oldest of 20 kids. The youngest passed away at 6 months old when my grandpa was already in his 20s. If she was strong enough to survive 20 pregnancies and births, some guy with a piece of paper didn't stand a chance. It's almost poetic that she was the one who saved them from those residential schools. My father deliberately caused a fatal car accident in the no man's land between Thailand and Malaysia. He accelerated our Ford when another car tried to overtake, even though a truck was coming in the opposite direction. My sister and I watched in horror through the rear window as the overtaking car got boxed in, slammed on the brakes, fishtailed, and flipped multiple times into a large monsoon drain. We screamed for him to stop and help, but my father, a military officer, kept driving until we reached the border crossing into Malaysia. As children, my sister and I couldn't understand why he wouldn't stop. Many years later, he admitted that he had intentionally tried to kill them because he only wanted to know what it felt like to kill someone. I haven't spoken to him in 10 years. My grandmother was deeply religious, though she wasn't part of the clergy. She believed that Jesus, Satan, and their angels would visit her and share messages. As a kid, I was terrified by her stories of shadowy rope figures with no visible faces appearing at her bedside in the middle of the night. She also claimed to hear their voices whispering to her while she did her chores during the day. Most of the family laughed it off, but it genuinely scared me. Not exactly disturbing, but definitely a secret. A few years ago, my dad needed help with his laptop. Somehow the display cable inside had come loose, an easy fix. When I turned it back on and loaded Windows to check that everything was working, I noticed a window open with his Gmail sent messages. Every single one was him replying to M4M Craigslist ads. This was about a year after my mom passed. They had been married for 35 years, and as far back as I can remember, it had been a pretty loveless marriage. I just closed the window, ran a Windows update because he's a boomer who never updates anything, and told him everything was working fine. This is something I've only ever shared with my fiancé, and I don't plan on bringing it up with my dad. He knows I'm open and accepting, both of my kids are part of the LGBTQ community, and it doesn't bother me. But I didn't feel it was my place to start that conversation. I have a very close friend, and not long ago I found out something about him. He's actually one of the biggest drug dealers in our city. He's already on probation for possession, and if he gets caught again, he could face 10 to 15 years in prison. What I don't understand is why he would do that, since he also has a stable, well-paying job. Even without the drug business, he could live a very comfortable and decent life. I know a few people who do it for social status and the thrill, even though they earn good money from other legal sources. My father has been abusive to both me and my mother. The last time I went back to my childhood home, he strangled me from behind, and I vowed never to be alone in a room with him again. He's a very successful children's book author, having published over 100 books. If it ever got out that he mistreated his own child, it could be a complete disaster for him. My vegetarian friend took me out for burgers. She ordered 1 chicken patty and 1 veggie patty, but the server accidentally swapped them in front of us. She kept eating, complaining that her burger was unusually chewy. Having never had chicken before, she had no idea about its taste or texture. The moment I bit into mine, I realized I had the veggie burger. By then she had already taken a bite of the chicken. I knew she would get violently sick if I told her the truth, and probably very upset as well. So I never said a word. It's been 14 years and she still doesn't know she ate chicken that day. I happened to come across a video of a friend of mine on an adult site. At first it didn't seem too strange, but then I noticed it was in the gay section, which surprised me even more because he's married and has children. On top of that, he's a Christian and sings in a Christian rock band. I found out that a guy I used to study with at university has been filming adult videos at his workplace. My colleague moved to the UK and sent me a link saying, "Oh my god, is this our colleague?" I tried to open it, but the video was unavailable in my country. I used my VPN that I normally use for Netflix, and boom, there he was. Full face and in his work uniform. He had obviously blocked the videos from our country, hoping no one would see them. He's always really messy in the kitchen and spills coffee everywhere, and I've been so tempted to say, "Hey, his username, do you mind cleaning that up?" I know a real estate millionaire who swindled a major biker gang out of millions. He's been on the run for over a decade, living abroad under a new identity to stay hidden. I know where he is and could expose him, but I'd never say a word. The last time I saw him, the bags under his eyes covered half his face. They're still searching for him. Edited. Yes, they have millions and operate more like an international crime syndicate than a typical motorcycle club. Their wealth comes mostly from drug trafficking and other illegal activities I won't name. The man I know convinced them to invest a large part of their criminal profits in his real estate projects under the pretense of laundering it, but instead he disappeared with the money. You can share in the comments a secret that you think could ruin someone's life if it ever came out. And who knows, maybe your comment will end up in a future video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.